Welcome back, everyone. Today, we're going to be talking about Pearl, a new horror movie that just came out, I think last week. By the time I'm uploading this, it might have been like 2 weeks, but movie's directed by Ty West. The main actress is Mia Goth. It's like a prequel for the movie X. I don't know if anybody's seen that. It was a horror movie that came out earlier this year with like Jenna Ortega, and Kid Cudi in it. So this is a prequel to that movie set in like 1918. I don't know if I would really call this movie like a horror movie. It's more of like a thriller. But the story follows this character named Pearl. She's this farm girl who lives with her parents. This is during a war, so she's married to this guy named Howard who's sent overseas, and she's back home taking care of her father who just contracted an illness, so he's pretty much paralyzed from head to toe. She has to feed him like morphine to keep him alive, pretty much. And an overprotective mother that pretty much forces her to do whatever she wants. The mom has chores for her 24/7. The mom has pretty much the biggest burden in her life set on her, and she's content on escaping this reality. But in the background of all of this is a dark personality. The movie opens up with her going to feed her cattle in this like little barn area, and she starts performing for them because she wants to be an actress during this war period, and she wants to be the most well-known name on the planet. And then we see a duck enter her little barn area, and she gets pissed because she thinks the duck is looking at her the wrong way. So she takes a pitchfork, stabs the duck in the fucking chest, and then just walks happily down to this little lake by her house, trots down there singing while she does it, by the way, and then just feeds this fucking duck to this alligator that she's befriended in this little pond lake area. And so that's like the first unsettling moment of the movie. And I wouldn't say there's that many jump scares to the movie. I mean, I feel like it's pretty straightforward, pretty set path. Like, you kind of know what's going to happen, but at the same time, you don't know what's going to happen at all. And then the movie shifts to a little more lighthearted. She's doing chores for her family, and she's all smiling, happy, laughing, and she's like, I want to be an actress. I want to be the biggest name the world has ever seen. So on her way to town, her mother sends her to town to get like groceries, do chores or whatever. She goes and sees a film at the local theater. The film projectionist artist guy is played by David Corenswet. He doesn't really have a name in the movie. It's pretty much just the projectionist. He's the guy that runs the projections for the movie, pretty much. Like, this is film period, so he has to put the film in, load it up, whatever. That's besides the point. She starts fantasizing about this guy, and on her way home from the movie theater, at the movie theater, by the way, he gives her like a little sliver of the film. He like cuts it up, gives it to her in her pocket. On her way home, driving on her bike back home, the wind gusts that picture out of her pocket. So she goes into this cornfield to try to find it, and you're like, well, she's never gonna find this fucking picture. It's a little tiny little film piece. While in there, you see this. It's kind of like a sinister feeling. She's going through the cornfield, average horror movie type shit. And then she sees this scarecrow in the cornfield, and you think maybe there's gonna be like a jump scare or something crazy. Nope. She climbs up to the top of the fucking scarecrow thing, takes the scarecrow thing off, and starts fucking the scarecrow. She fucks a unalive scarecrow. And she's picturing the projectionist's face on the scarecrow like the whole time that she's doing it. And it gets really uncomfortable because it's like a silent moment, and all you can hear is her moaning to this fucking scarecrow, and it's kind of uncomfortable, especially when you're watching it with someone else. But she goes back home, she's still having trouble with her parents, her family, and then the movie starts to take a much darker turn. She's like, I can't do this anymore. I've been cooped up here all my life. And then she starts to argue with her mother. And she's like, Mom, there's a dance rehearsal tomorrow in town for the church, and they're going to take one dancer from every town, and this is my chance to escape this place. This is my chance to get out of this shitty town and, you know, explore the world. And her mom says, no, you're not going. You're done. Like, I'm tired of all these fake fantasies that you've dreamt up. Your job is to sit here, take care of your father, and work on the farm. And at this point, she absolutely fucking loses it. And her mom starts shouting at her. She's like, I know you've been having these dark fantasies. I know you've been dreaming of killing me and your father. And she's taken aback by this. She's like, how do people know about this? And then you get a scene where she shoves her mother into the fire pit, and her mother catches fire, and she's pretty much just burning alive on the ground. She dumps water on her, you know, puts out the fire, whatever, kind of tries to save her, but at the same time, she wants to kill her. And then her father's watching all of this, by the way, but he can't do anything because he's paralyzed, sitting in his wheelchair, like, just staring, pretty much, just gawing at the view of his own wife dying in front of him while his daughter does it. And then she locks her mother in this cellar in their basement, and her mother's not dead at this point either. She's still kind of alive, but barely. So Pearl locks her down there and then goes off and does this recital the next day. But before she goes, the projectionist that she fell in love with earlier, she goes and has an affair with him at like the movie theater, which, I mean, if you're watching the movie, you can kind of expect this throughout, but she gets feelings for this guy. So she brings the projectionist back to her house to meet her parents, but her mom's locked up in the basement. Her dad is very unsettling. He's just staring. He's like waiting for her to kill him. And the projectionist guy, he's like, Pearl, something's wrong here. Like, are you not telling me something? And then she takes him out to the barn where she killed the duck. And she's like, do you not like me? Like, do you think something's wrong with me? And she goes off the rails here. And I think the actress does an amazing job. The Mia Goth, who plays Pearl in this movie, does an incredible job. Like, throughout most of the movie, she's pretty calm, pretty tame. But the moments where she goes insane, I think absolutely make this movie. She goes off the rails, and it's kind of sweet to see. So after the projectionist guy says, like, something's wrong with you, Pearl, like, you need help, she's like, I don't need help. I'm going to show you. I'm going to show the world. And as he's walking back to his car, she grabs her pitchfork, the same one she fucking killed the duck with, walks over to him in his car, and she's like, I'm perfectly fine. Like, why do you look at me this way? And just stabs him multiple times. And he's trying to escape this whole time and ends up driving his car into the river where her pet alligator eats him. And then we go back to her house. She gets her father all tidied up, you know, and then she goes to the rehearsal for the part in the dancing, like the traveling dancing thing. While there, her friend Mitzi is there, who happens to be her husband Howard's sister. So Howard's overseas fighting in the war, and Mitzi's here kind of like her only friend. And Mitzi visits every once in a while, and her and Pearl kind of have a good relationship. But while waiting in line, Mitzi says, if I don't get this part, I hope you do. And Pearl looks at her and says, no, I'm the one who deserves this part. If anyone else gets this part, they're pretty much dead. That's pretty much what she says. So Mitzi starts to get a little weirded out by this, and you can kind of see the shift of like the story. And then she goes in there, puts on this great performance in her own head. She starts like envisioning like what people are going to be saying when she's on the road. They start clapping, and then it cuts to the judges, and they're like, nope, we're not really looking for this right now. You're not the person that we had in mind when we drew up this role. And then she goes crazy once again. You get to see the full acting capability of Mia Goth in this scene, and I think it's pretty fucking amazing. Why is the sun in my way right here? I'm sorry about this view, but fuck that. We'll get back to the story. So then Mitzi, we don't really get to see Mitzi's audition, but she offers Pearl a ride home after this. And then while at Pearl's home, Mitzi's like, "Where are your parents at?" At this point, her mother is still locked in the cellar. She's planning on killing her own dad at this point. And then Mitzi and Pearl sit down at the table, and Pearl says, "I have some things to confess, but the only person I can talk to is Howard, her husband, who's also Mitzi's brother." And Mitzi's like, "Well, just go ahead, Pearl. Pretend I'm Howard for a second and tell me the whole story." And Mitzi starts going off about how she cheated on her husband. I'm fucking sorry about this shit. 1 second. Whatever. Fuck the light. And so Pearl starts going off on this tangent about how she cheated on Howard. And Mitzi's like, "Oh, you can talk that out with Howard. Like, this is a point in time where, like, divorce is very uncommon. Like, if you're married to someone, it's for life during this time period." So Mitzi's like, "Oh, you guys can work it out maybe." And then Pearl starts confessing everything else she's done. She's like, "I've been having these dark fantasies, and I didn't think that I'd be able to live them out, but killing is just so easy." And then Mitzi starts to realize, like, what she's in for. And she's like, "Oh, well, Pearl, I think I should probably get going." And then Pearl's like, "Mitzi, I know you got the audition." And then you're like, whoa, Pearl, chill the fuck out. And then Mitzi's like, "No, I didn't. Why would I have gotten it?" And Pearl's like, "Stop lying to me." Dead face staring at her right in the camera. And you can kind of see the tension start to build. And then as Mitzi's leaving, Pearl's like, "No, stop lying to me." And then Mitzi's like, "Okay, I got the part." And then Pearl's puts on this fake little surprise, and she's like, "I'm proud of you, Mitzi. I'm glad you got it. Remember, if it wasn't me, it should have been you, right?" And then as Mitzi's leaving, Pearl follows her out the door, and Mitzi starts to kind of like jog away. She's like scared for her life, and Pearl's slowly walking towards this axe that's on her front door. Grabs the axe, fucking chases down Mitzi, stabs her in the back multiple times, and this is where, like, the movie's off the fucking rails. There's no comeback at this point. Absolutely chops up Mitzi. And then you get a few cutscenes where she's killing her father. She, like, suffocates him in a pillowcase. She's chopping up Mitzi with an axe. She's chopping up her mother, who's still in the fucking cellar. And then it starts to cut, and then she sets up, like, this one last final dinner for her and her family. So she sets up her dead father in his wheelchair at the dinner table, sets up her dead, like, mutilated mother next to her. She puts on a nice dress, sits down at the dinner table, starts to eat dinner. And then it cuts for a little bit, and then you get to see Howard come back from war, and he walks into the house, and he's like, he's so excited to see Pearl. Pearl's like, "Oh, I've been missing you." And then he sees the fucking kitchen scene, and he's like, "Pearl, what happened?" And then the final scene of the movie is Pearl staring into the camera, just smiling uncontrollably, and she's like, "I've missed you." And it's like, for like fucking 5 minutes, the smile just gets worse and worse. She starts crying, and that's the end credit scene. So the movie overall is fucking nuts. I mean, not usually my type of movies. I don't really like horror movies, but I feel like a lot of my movie reviews recently have been horror based, because it's coming up on October. Most of the movies out right now are horror movies, Halloween movies. So I'm sorry for that, but this movie, I do recommend. I'd say probably about a 7 out of 10, just because I was going in expecting more of like a horror feel, but it turned out to be more of like a thriller-based movie. Not much jump scares. I think there was like 1 or 2 jump scares, but like the eerie feeling you get throughout the movie, I think, is what makes it into the horror genre, kind of. But I mean, yeah, I recommend it if you're like into like casual horror movies, not really something you're like willing to lose sleep over. So, but hopefully I'll be doing more soon. I want to do Halloween Ends that comes out this October. maybe some more horror films throughout. I know that they're re-releasing a lot of Halloween themed movies throughout like October around here in our like local movie theaters, so I'll probably go try to see a few of those. But that's my review on Pearl. Oh, and by the way, Pearl, X, and Maxine is like one of the first movies to ever release a trilogy within a year. So X came out earlier this year with Kid Cudi and like Jenna Ortega and all of them. Pearl just came out this week, and Maxine, which is the third installment of the movie, which is I think is based in like 80s Hollywood, is supposed to come out I think later this year. So I think it's the first ever trilogy to come out within 1 year. So that's pretty cool, pretty exciting, something unique. But yep, that's my review on Pearl, and I will see y'all next time. Peace.